Hi everyone, today we'll cover the internal rate of return concept, also called the IRR. That is the discount rate which makes the NPV of a project equal to zero, which essentially can act as a break-even point. And we'll find it first by using two different methods. First will be the IRR function built into Excel, and secondly, the more accurate method, we'll use the solver method, which is also built into Excel, into the data pack. So we could begin by doing the function method here. We'll have right here, and then let's say our initial cash flow to start the project is 200, and then 50, 50, 80, 100, and these don't matter, I just picked arbitrary cash flows. So first we could say that the IRR equals the values, and then here we have our second box here which says guess, and the guess is there because the IRR actually estimates the rate in Excel. It's not an exact answer, and in this situation we can simply just say leave it blank. And then we could do the same thing with the same cash flows here and try to do the solver method, which is more accurate. And then what we could do here is we could set a net present value, and then we'll say that the rate will be the cell above, the discount rate, and then the values will be 1 to 5 plus the initial cash flow as follows. And then now what we could do is we could go to data, what if analysis, goal seek, and then we could set the cell that we want to find, which will in our case be the net present value, and then we want to set it to 0. So essentially what we want to do is we want to find the cell for the discount rate here that will make the NPV cell B22 equal to 0, and then we can just click OK. So here you can see that GoalSeek found that the net present value is 0 at the 23.6% rate, which is the same as our first solution using the function. And we could just highlight these. These are our IRRs. And then now a scenario that might happen is that sometimes there's two different IRRs, and that happens when the IRR intersects the 0 NPV mark twice. So this can be visually shown. So let's say our first cash flow is 145, 100, 100, 100, 100, and then let's say negative 275. So this can visually be shown. This happens, the two different IRRs, when there's two different sign changes. So it goes from a negative investment to a positive cash flow back to a negative cash flow. And then visually we can create a table and pick different rates. So I picked 0 to 20%, and then I just scale it by 10 because it won't matter. So these are just arbitrary rates. And then we could just do an NPV function because we're going to make the NPV 0 at every rate, and then we're going to see which rate is the one that makes this 0. So essentially we could just drag down the formula for all these values, and then we can graphically visualize this. So we could just do a scatter plot. Any scatter plot will do. Let's say something like this right here. So what we have here is, and we could say different IRRs, different IRR values. And essentially what we could see here is that the NPV, which will be the y-axis, and then the IRR will be the x-axis, and we can add data labels, but it doesn't really matter. You can visually see it anyways. At the point where the NPV is 0, we will intersect the IRR twice. So we'll have two different rates. So approximately somewhere at 8-9%, and then again at 25-26%. And now, to make sure that we have the right rates, I set up these two different IRR values down here. The first IRR can simply be the previous formula we used. And then we can put in a guess now, because we know graphically that it's somewhere from 0. The IRR is somewhere from 0 to 30. So we could just say this is from 0. And then the second IRR will be 2.5, or we can make it 2.3 because we know it's below 30. And then here we have the estimated values of the IRRs. The first IRR and then the second IRR. So to recap, we'll get two different IRRs when the sign changes twice. Not always. If the cash flow is not adequate, it might never cross 0. But when it does have two different values, this is when it happens. And then we can visually see this by setting up a rate and NPV table to find where the NPV equals 0. And then that'll give us the IRR. And then we can graphically see that it's somewhere between 8 to 9%. And then we can see again that it's somewhere around 26%, 27% here. And then by setting up the first IRR formula and the second IRR formula and guessing the values, because now we know where they are graphically. And if we don't want to do it graphically, we can also see where it changes values here from negative to positive. So 0 will be somewhere in between 8 and 9. And 0 will be somewhere in between 20 and 30 again. And we could pick smaller percentages in between here as well. So I hope that kind of explains how to find the IRR in Excel using two different methods, preferably the goal seek when you can, and then what happens when there's two different IRR values. Please comment if you have any questions, and feel free to shoot me a message if you want any templates. Thank you.